$8 billion. One of the most trusted brands on the planet lost it in a single year. Almost everyone pointed at a 90-second commercial. The real reason started years before that ad ever aired. On January 14, 2019, Gillette uploaded a short film called We Believe, The Best Men Can Be. Inside 2 days, it collected 400,000 dislikes and turned into one of the platform's most rejected videos. People filmed themselves dropping razors into the trash. The hashtag #BoycottGillette climbed worldwide. 6 months later, Procter Gamble wrote down the Gillette brand by $8 billion. Reporters connected the timing to the ad. The executives behind it pointed somewhere else entirely. To see what actually drained those billions, you have to rewind past the controversy, all the way to a razor patent from 1901. This is the story of a company that ruled men's faces for a century, then watched the ground move under it. In 1901, King Camp Gillette patented the safety razor, with a thin, throwaway blade. Before him, men dragged a straight blade across their throat and sharpened it on leather every morning. His trick was simple. The handle stayed cheap, while the blades sold again and again. During the First World War, the U.S. Army handed a Gillette razor to roughly 3.5 million soldiers. Those men came home with a habit, and the habit had a brand name on it. For decades, Gillette wrote the visual language of manhood in advertising. Athletes, fighters, pilots. The message stayed steady. Real men used this blade. In 1989, they launched a single line that stuck for 30 years. The best a man can get. By the early 2000s, Gillette held about 70% of the global razor market. That grip let them charge cartridge prices well above rivals, and shoppers paid without flinching. In 2005, Procter Gamble bought the company for $57 billion, their biggest deal ever. For more than 100 years, nobody had managed to touch them. By 2018, the numbers told a story no commercial could fix. Market share had slipped from 70% toward the mid-50s. Grooming revenue inside P&G had fallen by double digits across 3 years. Part of the cause sat on men's faces. Beards came back into fashion. Average shaving dropped from around 3.7 times a week to roughly 3.2 over the decade. Younger men watched grooming tutorials and bought beard oil instead of cartridges. Manual razor sales across the U.S. fell about 5% year over year into 2018. The sharper threat came from two guys with a camera and a warehouse. In 2012, Dollar Shave Club released a YouTube clip where the founder said the blades were great and the price was $1. Within 48 hours, 12,000 orders crashed their site. The pitch landed because it was honest. Why pay $25 when $3 blades shave the same face? Subscribe, and the blades arrive at your door. No aisle, no locked plastic case. In 2013, Harry's launched with the same logic. Lower price, cleaner design, straight to the customer. In 2016, Unilever bought Dollar Shave Club for $1 billion in cash. Gillette answered with discounts. Blade prices came down about 12% in 2017. Sales kept sliding. The cuts only meant smaller margins on a product fewer people wanted. The subscription brands carried something Gillette could not buy back. They felt built for a new generation. Gary Coombe, who ran P&G's grooming division, admitted the brand was losing relevance with younger men. So leadership reached for a different lever. They decided to make the brand mean something new. In 2018, taking a public stance had become a marketing playbook. Nike put Colin Kaepernick at the center of its Dream Crazy campaign. After Parkland, Dick's Sporting Goods pulled assault rifles from its shelves. Patagonia sued the federal government over protected public land. A Nielsen study reported 66% of shoppers would pay more for a socially responsible brand. Agencies repeated the same advice. A brand needed to stand for something past the product. The Me Too movement had pushed male behavior into every conversation. Gillette had spent decades defining masculine imagery, so leadership saw a clear opening. Their agency, Gray New York, flipped the 30-year slogan into something new. They hired Kim Garrig, the director behind Sport England's This Girl Can. A filmmaker known for speaking to women would now lecture men about manhood. Gillette also pledged $3 million to groups supporting boys, like the Boys and Girls Clubs. The plan looked tidy on a slide: win younger, progressive buyers and build loyalty past price. In January 2019, they were ready. They expected applause. The film opened with men staring into mirrors as news audio about bullying and Me Too played. Boys brawled while fathers shrugged. Boys will be boys. Men catcalled women on the street. Executives talked over female colleagues. Then Terry Crews appeared, repeating his line from congressional testimony: "Men must hold other men accountable." The film ran 1 minute and 48 seconds, and a single razor never appeared on screen. The comment section detonated. Viewers said they were being branded bullies, and worse. The problem was rarely the message. It was the messenger and the order of the scenes. Most of the runtime showed men behaving badly. The good examples arrived only at the end. For many men, it read like an accusation. You are the problem. And it came from a brand that had sold aggressive masculinity for a century. Piers Morgan, with more than 6 million followers, called it virtue signaling and threatened to switch. His post turned into a rallying cry. Response videos pulled in millions of views. The ad finished with about 400,000 dislikes, against 200,000 likes. Not everyone turned against it. Bernice King, daughter of Martin Luther King Jr., called it pro-humanity. Some marketing experts praised the courage, but the loud voices were furious, and those angry voices belonged to people who had bought Gillette for 30 years. Gillette eventually shut off the comments and quietly removed the video from its channel. One question hung over everything: was this real damage or just internet noise? Over the next 6 months, P&G's earnings reports answered it. Grooming net sales fell from about $6.5 billion in 2018 to roughly $6.2 billion in 2019. That was a drop of around $3.5 billion, $152 million, in one fiscal year. Gillette's global blades and razor share slid from near 65% towards 60%. Where did those buyers go? Dollar Shave Club and Harry's absorbed many of them. Even Schick, a rival that had struggled for years, saw switchers arrive. In July 2019, on the quarterly call, CFO Jon Moeller announced an $8 billion write-down on Gillette. The charge pushed P&G to a net loss above $5 billion for the quarter. Moeller blamed currency swings, fewer men shaving, and tougher competition. The ad went unmentioned in the statement. But the calendar made its own argument. 6 months after the loudest campaign in company history, $8 billion in brand value was gone. Now everyone wanted to know whether leadership would call it a mistake. In August 2019, Marketing Week sat down with Gary Coombe. Asked about the write-down, he did not back away. He called the loss a price worth paying. To make most people love the brand more, he said, you risk upsetting a small minority. There was real evidence of attention. Website traffic hit a 5-year high. The brand pulled over 1.5 million mentions online within a single day. On paper, it read like a win. The data hid one fatal gap. A Toluna survey found 77% felt hopeful after watching. Only 34% wanted to buy. The campaign reached an audience that was about 51% female. Many of them cheered the message and never shopped for men's razors. A study of more than 4,500 male Gillette buyers found something heavier. Most of them valued family and country and ranked gender politics low. Gillette had planted its flag on the opposite side of its own customers. Here is the part the headline skipped. The $8 billion was already leaking before the ad. The write-down was an accounting reset on a 2005 deal that had aged badly. P&G had paid $57 billion for a market that was shrinking under everyone's feet. Beards, subscriptions, and cheaper blades had been pulling value out for years. The commercial poured fuel on a fire that structural change had already lit. By late 2019, Gillette quietly pivoted to firefighters and personal trainers as everyday heroes. The lecture experiment was over. The decline kept going on its own track. In December 2023, P&G booked another write-down, near $1.3 billion on Gillette. That second charge had nothing to do with any commercial. It was the same shrinking market. So the ad earned the blame, and the spreadsheet told a colder story. Gillette targeted people who would clap rather than people who would pay. It mistook cultural relevance for product relevance. Sneakers get worn in public. Razors get used alone. And it told loyal buyers they were the problem, then asked them to check out. Gary Coombe called the backlash a price worth paying. Across 2019 and 2023, that price added up past $9 billion. The blade still sat on the shelf, waiting for someone to want it again. A brand can take a stand and start a global argument. The market still asks one question: who actually buys the razor?